World news and opinion. 6 critical items transmitted.
Ground and air skirmishes between NOD and GDI forces escalated today when NOD, reacting to recent GDI funding cuts, launched a full-scale ground attack against GDI troops in Africa.
GDI spokesman continued to deny rumors of continued weapons tests involving orbiting laser cannons capable of leveling entire armies in seconds.
The exclusive photos smuggled out of the World Tiberium Research Center show evidence of serious ecological consequences in tiberium-rich areas. Whether these unusual effects on plant life have any relationship to recent reports of tiberium poisoning in humans remains to be seen.
And the death toll so far, God only knows. This is Greg Burdett standing in front of what GDI terrorists have left of the St. Olafsky orphanage.
Don't look so surprised, Commander. And don't look around for your Eva. It can't help you now.
Well, what shall we talk about, Your powerful GDI forces have been emasculated, and you yourself are a killer of children. Now, of course, it's not true. But the world only believes what the media tells them to believe. And I tell the media what to believe. It's really quite simple. Oh, there's your little pet. But now that I know where you live, Commander, it's only a matter of time. Were I in your shoes, I would spend my last earthly hours enjoying the world. Of course, if you wish, you can spend them fighting for a lost cause. But you know that you've lost.
Defense Condition Field Briefing. GDI equipment in Area 18 is in urgent need of repair. This mission is of great tactical importance. NOD forces still threaten Salzburg. GDI needs to establish headquarters for rapid GDI deployment. Your mission: repair as many ground weapons, armored vehicles, and buildings as possible.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to GDI Mission 8, and just like that, we're over halfway through the GDI campaign, thanks to skipping a level, which we will go back and do, I do assure you. This was all recorded in one playthrough, so the kind of skipping that level is something I have to sort of retcon and go back and fix. I so instinctually like to skip that level that I was like, well, should I really be skipping it for the sake of the YouTube channel? Probably not. I'll go back and do it at some point, which I'm going to do. This mission is an interesting challenge, and there are a number of ways to do it, and some of those ways are quicker than the way I do it. Some of the ways are better than the way I do it. I sort of missed an execution step here. NOD have a pretty well fortified base, and you don't have the means to produce tanks. And one of the things that the NOD AI is told to do on this level is prioritize the production of artillery. Now, artillery is an inaccurate unit that deals critical damage to infantry when it hits them. So it's kind of, in a mission where you don't have tank production and you're forced to blob with infantry, the AI is told to build the unit that best counters that. In that, well, because they're the Brotherhood of Nod, they will always build a lot of flame troopers anyway, because it's part of Nod's core attack force. But they also build artillery. There's an artillery unit there. Fortunately, we are provided with 3 MRLS even, which is the Mobile Rocket Launcher System. It's listed in the game as just Rocket Launcher. It basically functions like the GDI Advanced Guard Tower. It shoots incredibly inaccurately, but deals critical damage to infantry. It is nowhere near as cool as the Nod's Advanced Base Defense, the Obelisk of Light, which we'll be seeing not in this level, but relatively soon. So your first stages are to scout the map with a Humvee. Be mindful that all your units are pre-deployed for when it comes to vehicles, and you don't want to lose this Humvee. So you'll hear me giving a lot of orders to this Humvee, and that's just making sure it moves in a very particular way. It kites infantry as much as it can, gaining efficiency for the unit. Normally you destroy a church, but as the church is not hostile to you, you'll find the money is behind the church. Tucked neatly behind that tree. As always, there's normally in these missions a box like that lying around for you to find, and it rewards you for exploring the map.
Building. Unit ready. Building.
So, all you want to do is gain vision. Nod are directly north of where my Humvee just was. As you can see, Nod have bridges blocked off and all sorts of fun shenanigans like that.
Building.
So our first order of business is to just build up slightly. You'll see me training a lot of engineers. That's a pretty obvious hint at what I'm going to be doing. And that is taking over the Nod base. Now, we can't do the same strategy that we did in Mission 5 because we don't have the ability to produce APCs. So we can't just use a load of dummy APCs and then run the one with engineers in. And we have to be very careful. So I'm loading up 2 APCs, both my APCs, completely full of engineers. They're an expensive unit and I want them safe from the flamers. And we're going to be essentially building an attack force and attacking into Nod that way.
Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building.
I'm producing a lot of grenadiers to deal with the Nod infantry blobs. I would recommend, if you've got the income and the money, to prioritize some rocket soldiers. It'll help you deal with the Nod tanks, and hopefully if you control your MRLS well enough, you will use them to destroy Nod infantry blobs. But I have an inhuman respect for Nod's flamers and their ability to shoot while moving, and shoot when they're dead, and all sorts of ridiculous things that only the AI can make the flame troopers do. So as you can see, I'm pulling the aggro for a lot of these units. These units protect a sort of a backdoor element to the Nod base, and just by pulling them out, it means that they're not going to flank me later on when I actually do attack the Nod base. And also, it's just nice to clear some of Nod's map presence, reveal some of the map to us, open up more safe harvesting for our harvester, if this mission does drag out. MRLS come very close to dying there, but as you can see, their power when they're actually hitting, they're very good, very noisy, but very good at cleaning up infantry blobs. Nod's sort of reputation as that sort of guerrilla fighting unit is sort of revealed in how it uses its units, and you get a lot of attacks by infantry blob to the Nod AI. And both of GDI's base structures are generally very good at dealing with infantry blobs. The Advanced Guard Tower fires rockets, and the world's noisiest base defense in the Guard Tower obviously has a machine gun that just mows men down. So, this is all kind of hinting to you from a strategical perspective to go up this hill because it's so very defended for what is actually none of the Nod base. What's actually up here is one of the SAM sites, but you can actually reach
Building.
critical nod structures
Cancel.
with the MRLS, which I don't do here. I try something slightly different and it doesn't work too well. But what you can do is you can clear this pathway out, send your MRLS up here, and destroy vast chunks of the nod base from a safe range. That tank isn't aggroed to me. A cool sort of fact about tanks is you can tell what they're aggroed to because the turret will face what they want to shoot. So if the turret's facing away from you, even as the tank's moving towards you, it doesn't want to shoot you. Whereas that tank's got its turret pointed directly at my Humvee. So it wants to take a shot at my Humvee. So you can sort of see the layout of the nod base now and sort of picture where they're hiding. And you can see why this in particular... And I do lose the Humvee because I take my eye off it for a second. And you can sort of see why that high ground would be very useful if you were to use laser rocket launchers.
Unit ready. Building. Unable to comply. Building in progress. Unit ready.
So again, as Nod launches its attack, we're making use of the repair bay as much as possible because every vehicle matters, so we're trying to keep them all topped up, healthy and repaired. You can see the Nod Harvester, so this is another way you can do the mission. You can start to choke out the Nod Harvester by killing them, because it actually has to go out of the base to harvest. In some of these missions, Nod are provided with relatively safe harvesting spots, but not in this mission. Nod are forced to harvest quite far from home, and in quite open territory where you can attack them. And that's another way to do this mission. So you can take the MRLS to the high ground and shoot down on them, or you can choke them out from a resource perspective. I go for the most inefficient way to do this level, which is a full frontal assault with lots of casualties, lots of death, and lots of either saying unit lost. While I'm setting up this attack, I wanted to talk about something really interesting in the cutscene. So this is our sort of first introduction to Kane. Kane finds us and threatens us even, and I actually love this cutscene. It's one of my favourite Kane cutscenes, and it doesn't even feature from the Brotherhood's campaign, and it's in the GDI's campaign. It gives you a sort of invite into Kane's personality as that charismatic leader of Nod. The reference it makes to Nod launching a full frontal assault in Africa is a reference to the Nod campaign. So the commander that you play as for the Brotherhood of Nod attacks Africa, whereas the commander that you play for GDI is defending Europe from the Brotherhood of Nod. So they've kind of done it so that both run concurrently, but at the same time are different stories. So that both commanders can sort of be successful, but at the same time maintain the canon that is GDI being victorious. Spoilers for this 1995 game. It's really interesting that they put in touches like that. So, as tends to be the case for the AI, as soon as you threaten its harvesters, it throws what it has at you. So that was how I messed this attack up. I sort of lose control of what I'm doing, and as a result of that, the both APCs full of engineers actually get killed.
Building captured. Building. Unit lost.
And because of that, we take
Unit lost.
very heavy casualties.
Unit
So all I do is I sell up and I move out
Unit lost.
of the Nod base. What I should have done was also introduce those two idle MRLS. So you can start to see the inefficiency of attacking into Nod when you don't know what you're doing, which is sort of what starts to happen to me when my plan goes horribly, horribly wrong.
Waiting orders. Moving out. Reporting. Moving out. Roger.
Building.
So, when you've got turrets like these and you need to break them down, it's better to use rocket soldiers because of their accuracy and their structure damage, as opposed to grenadiers, who tend to be, first of all, more of a liability because of their AoE damage, but also quite an issue. So that's what I was talking about before. The way the Brotherhood of Nod's infantry is controlled. It does these wonderful, I'm going to walk past you and shoot you at the same time things. I can never get that to work, but the AI makes it look super easy.
Affirmative. Waiting orders. You got it. You got it. Yes, sir.
Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Unable to comply.
So Nod is very concerned with the preservation of its base, so it will march those units all the way around just to deal with those grenadiers, as you can see, and manage it because flame troopers are so good.
Moving out. Moving out. Reporting. Right away, sir. Got it. Acknowledged. Waiting. Moving out. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit
Roger. Moving out. Moving out.
lost.
Reporting.
Unit
Right away, sir.
lost.
Reporting. Moving out. Right away, sir.
Nod building captured. Building. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost.
But as you can see, the moment you lose your ability to deal with infantry easily, this just starts to become all shades of chaos, and now I'm just trying to get into the Nod base again.
Building.
Instead of replaying the level to show the most efficient way of doing it, I decided to leave this as it was, because it's kind of interesting. This is the strategy going wrong and me trying to piece it back together, which is a slightly more straightforward, realistic representation of the Command & Conquer gameplay than just, I know exactly the formula to beat this level. And it also makes for a slightly longer video, which I know some of you were slightly disappointed at the length of the videos so far. So this helps. You get an interesting bit of viewing out of me messing up 1 or 2 levels. Unfortunately, that is a flamer, so we can't just run past him as much as I would love to. So the grenadier is going to attract the interests of the turret. Once again, we're going to capture the refinery. We just keep doing this. But where I should have sent the first load of APCs is up here.
Building.
As you can see, we've got access now to the Nod construction yard. They can't replenish
Construction
their
complete.
base. That is important for us.
Building. On hold. Cancel.
By capturing the Nod base, we gain access to the airstrip, which means we will then be able to build tanks, which is kind of my go-to strategy here because it's all going horribly wrong and I don't have the means to deal with infantry. So I'm like, some tanks. Tanks will help. Tanks will solve the problem that I have caused.
Unit ready. Building.
And that's exactly the strategy that I use from here on out. I will also use some sandbags to extend the build radius of that base, just because there's not really any area to build there.
Building.
And I want to slap down a hand of Nod.
Construction complete.
So here we go. You'll see some sandbags, and the reason I want to slap down a hand of Nod is because you can see, as I mentioned in one of those previous missions, those silos are chock full of Tiberium, just waiting for me to steal it.
Construction complete. Primary building selected. Building. Unit ready. Unit lost. Building. Unit ready. Building. Building. Unit ready. Building.
So attacking Nod invokes Nod's ire, as it were,
Unit lost.
and you have to just start spam producing infantry to deal with them.
Unit lost. Building. Primary building selected.
Infantry minigunners actually do a surprising amount of damage to artillery. Artillery is so low armored that you can actually just hammer them with minigunners.
Unit ready. Log building captured. Building. Building. Unit lost. Building. Unit lost. Construction complete.
Now remember, every infantry building you produce increases the production of your infantry, so once again we're building engineers very quickly because we've got a barracks and 2 Hand of Nods, and we actually lost a Hand of Nod earlier as well, so our production for infantry is very, very fast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
But we now have access to some lovely GDI coloured light tanks,
Affirmative.
and we can start to think about closing out this level.
Ready and waiting.
There was a moment where I was worried that I'd completely messed it up and I'd be stuck here for 40 minutes trying to figure this problem out, but we got around it relatively quickly. And it all relies around engineers, because engineers are the best unit in this game. Let's put it this way, there's a reason why they changed the way the engineer works for Red Alert.
On
Because
hold. Cancel.
just stepping inside a building and capturing it was way too
Building.
strong.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes.
Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Unit
So the same rules apply even for this level, but I do waste these units by sending them up onto this ridge when I've got the rocket soldiers in position. What I was hoping is that this grenadier would be able to throw a cheeky grenade or two over the wall, but he can't.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
So at this point it's all about just gathering forces and cleaning up the Nod map. Once you get to about this point in the level, even if it looks like Nod has an advantage over you, because of how starved they are, they've got no money, they've got barely any production, you can make fools of Nod pretty quickly.
lost.
Yes, sir. Knowledge.
Our
Yes,
base
sir.
is under attack.
Waiting order. Moving out. You got it.
Building. Unit ready. Building.
So a few infantry
Reporting.
solve the problem.
Unit lost. Not building
Yes, sir.
captured.
Yes, sir. Moving out.
Building. Unit ready. Primary building selected. Unit ready.
Infantry are much more useful than the
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
than the tanks actually are once you get to this point. Just being able to deploy them en masse for relatively cheap when the artillery aren't on the field, you can get into these big, messy infantry fights that actually work out nicely for you.
Unit lost.
But I don't really have anything else to add to this level, as it will just be us clearing it up. So I'll see you in the next video, and I'll let the game sound speak for itself.
Report. Moving out. Affirmative. Moving out. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unit ready. New construction options. Not building captured. Strike
Affirmative.
ready.
Yes, sir.
Primary building selected. Building. Primary building selected. Mission accomplished.